Welcome to another Java tutorial. This time we're looking at figure 5.9 and figure 5.10. But before we do that, let's look at figure 4.9. We're continuing with the gradebook example. Recall that we had a constructor, set course name, get course name, display message, and determine class average. Determine class average, opened up the scanner, got a bunch of grades using a sentinel, and then we computed the average and printed out the total with the average. So figure 5.9, we're continuing with gradebook. We've added some class variables. So we've moved total and grade counter from being local variables in this method to an instance variable. As well, we've added letter grade counters, A, B, C, D, and F. Here's a new method. It's called input grades. Again, we open up a scanner. We print one prompt message, and we let the user enter a bunch of grades and then enter a terminate stream command. So on Unix, Linux, and Mac, we enter a Control D. On Windows, we enter a Control Z. Every time we get an integer from the stream, we add that to the total. We also increment the grade counter, and then we call a method called increment letter grade. We pass the grade in, and it will figure out which letter grade to increment. Then we close the stream. One nice thing about entering grades in this manner is we can enter many grades on one line rather than a grade on separate lines. However, the bad thing about this routine is that it closes the stream. So once we call this routine, we can get no further input from the input stream. Let's look at the increment letter grade counter method. We have a new kind of statement. It's called a switch statement. When you have limited values, it might be preferable to use a switch statement instead of if statements. Switch statements are a little bit easier to read because you don't have all the parentheses, open and closed. We simply separate the cases using break statements. So when we divide our grade by 10, we should get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If multiple values require the same work, such as 90% to 100%, we can lump them together and execute the same statements. So 90 to 100%, we increment the A letter grade count. 80 to 89%, we increment the B letter grade count, and so on. We only handle case 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. The rest we handle with a default case. So this handles 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that will increment the F letter grade. If I leave out this break statement, then it would continue with any following statements. So here it would increment the B letter grade and then break from the switch statement. However, that's not what we want to do in this case. We just want to increment the A letter grade count. Let's look at our next function, display grade report. So notice that total and grade counter aren't defined in this function anymore. It's at the instance level. So that means we can use these variables between the different methods. If I had declared total and grade counter in this instance, then input grades would not have been able to access them. So if I comment this out and save it, you would notice that these two lines of code would generate an error. And it cannot resolve it because it hasn't been declared at the instance level and hasn't been declared in this method. So let's put it back the way it was. So we output the totals as before and the average. This time we add a new print statement and we print the different letter grades and how many students got each letter grade. Let's look at the GradeBook test class. We create the instance as before. We display the message, and this time we call input grades and display grade report. So let's run it. Let's use the values in the textbook so that we can verify our code correctness. 99, 92, 45, 57, 63, 71, 76, 85, 90, and 100. Before entering Control Z, I need to actually enter a line break. And now I can hit Control Z. So I get 10 grades. 778 is the total, which matches the book. We have a class average of 77.8. We have 4 A's, 1 B, 2 C's, 1 D, and 2 F's. And that matches the output in the textbook. So the code that we've entered is correct, and we can continue looking at other examples. And that completes this lesson.